The kind folks at Wisehigh sent me this 8-inch chainsaw in exchange for making an honest review video showing what comes in a box, as well as its features and versatility. Then we'll finally see how many cuts it can make in a single charge, like a torture test. Full disclosure, I didn't pay for this chainsaw. In the interest of not beating around the bush, literally, let's see what's in the bush, the box. Here's one of the main things that caught my eye about this saw. It is compatible with Dewalt batteries. I am assuming that they aren't allowed to say Dewalt, but who knows? The packaging states 21 volts. My Dewalt batteries are 20 volt, but I will be testing this saw with a couple amp-hour variants of my Dewalt batteries. In the box, there's the saw itself with a black, gold, and gray color scheme. It looks like the Wisehigh Chainsaw has a manual chain oiler by way of this fuel primer bulb looking thing. What an odd name for a chainsaw. Are you thinking what I'm thinking? Wisehigh.
Wisehigh, huh?
There's a plastic scabbard to help keep the chain from damaging your pack, pocket, or whatever your favorite chainsaw transport vessel happens to be. There's a safety button on the side to keep the saw from turning on when you don't want it to, further preventing laceration, dismemberment, and hideous disfigurement of whatever the spinning chain comes in contact with. On the top of the bar, there's a spring-loaded protective safety cover that's ubiquitous on these small saws. There's a pair of stylish yet functional safety glasses to complement he, she, him, her, zer, z, cat, Batman symbol, plus sign, etc. I'll have the lovely Gertrude model these. Her pronoun is Gertrude. There's an extra chain, super handy to have, a small instruction manual, and a scrunch, which I am assuming that you'll need to carry this with you for making field adjustments to the bar and chain tension. And last but certainly not least, there's a side handle, which in my experience reviewing these saws, I have never seen one included unless I have at one point. I am not sure how useful this handle will be, just my opinion. I believe that while performing general pruning duties, this handle will just get in the way at least 50% of the time. Okay, since you brought it up, why didn't this chainsaw come with batteries? Well, because it uses Dewalt 20-volt max batteries. I would not recommend this saw if you do not already use Dewalt tools, because you'll need to buy batteries and a charger in order to use this chainsaw. Without Dewalt batteries, this chainsaw is just an arguably pretty paperweight. Speaking of weight, I'll have Mike describe the weight of the saw in various commonly used configurations.
So the saw itself, full of oil, with the handle, weighs 2 pounds, 9 ounces. If you take the handle off, the saw itself, full of oil, weighs 2 pounds, 7.0 ounces. And if we put the 4 amp hour battery, the saw, full of oil, with the battery and the scabbard on, weighs 3 pounds, 13.3 ounces. And if we remove the 4 amp hour battery and stick in the 10 amp hour battery, I'm going to have to stand it vertical. The saw itself, full of oil with the scabbard, weighs 4 pounds, 12.3 ounces.
I'm going to add some chain oil and do a cardboard test to see how well the chain oiler works. The instructions don't really specify any particular oil. I have some Stens bar and chain oil stored in a steel container because it's what you do. For simplicity of pouring. I'll pour some in ever so gracefully. Yeah, when it says 30 milliliters of bar oil, keep in mind it's not much, and Mostly Mike will now demonstrate how to adjust the chain tension.
Now this little scrunch that came with the saw, I believe you loosen these nuts and you can see the chain's kind of loose. You tighten the chain with that. You probably want, just a little bit of play on it, and we tighten the screws back up with the scrunch.
I thought that a place on the saw body to store the scrunch would have been a nice detail, but there wasn't, which kind of left me feeling sad.
Again, I can't stress to you enough, do not overfill the oil. 30 milliliters is not much.
The method that I always use to test the chain oilers on these saws is to take a piece of cardboard and run the saw a few inches above, looking for a small trail of oil mist that splatters on the cardboard. Which, this doesn't seem to be working. Let's look under the hood and see what's up. To remove the side cover, I used the included scrunch, which used one end to loosen these nuts and the other end to remove the tiny screw holding the corner, which almost looks like an afterthought. Being super careful not to lose the two nuts or the washers that go under those nuts or the tiny screw that holds the side cover on. When I press the primer bulb, there's a little bit of oil oozing where it's supposed to come out, but for some reason it doesn't seem to be applying enough to oil the chain properly. I tinkered with it and couldn't get the oiler to work. I'll just oil it by dumping some on the chain. To start the torture test, I'm going to use a cherry log custom notched so it can be held in my tripod vise. Which works very well for these tests. The first test will be with the Dewalt 10 amp hour battery, which all of these batteries used in the test are over a year old. So I guess what I'm hinting at is that a new battery might get a few more cuts than these batteries, is all. This test log is about 3 1/4 inches, give or take a ½ inch, in girth, which should be about the average in the normal realm of use for a pruning saw such as the Wisehigh. For the first test, we'll use the Dewalt 10 amp hour battery and make as many cuts on the test log, periodically oiling the chain until the saw quits running. So let's begin. The one thing that I noted during this test is that the bar and chain got pretty hot at times, and oiling the chain seemed to help, a lot. The motors seemed to remain relatively cool throughout the test.
Wow, we're out of wood. I'll find something else to cut here. Not gonna do too much more. I'm gonna call that dead. It's hardly worth getting another log for. Yeah, we got no lights on the battery. We're done. 162.
And the Wisehigh Chainsaw made 162 cuts using the Dewalt 10 amp hour battery, leaving a pretty impressive pile of sawdust on the ground. And here is test number 2 using the Dewalt 4 amp hour battery.
Dewalt 4 amp hour battery. We're at about 3 1/2 inches to start, and it's going to reduce diameter as we go down. Let's get started.
Same rules. This is a sudden death test. When a saw suddenly dies, the test is over. So considering that the 4 amp hour battery is 40% of the 10 amp hour battery, the test should result in 40% of the 162 cuts made with the 10 amp hour battery, right? Which 40% of 162 would be 64.8 cuts, right? Well, the Wisehigh 8-inch chainsaw with the Dewalt 4 amp hour battery made how many cuts? And 78 cuts would be about 48% of 162. Right? In my honest opinion, the cut numbers with the 4 amp hour battery were pretty impressive, all things considered. Right? Here's what I like about the Wisehigh 8-inch chainsaw. My favorite thing about this saw is the ability to use Dewalt 20-volt batteries. If you're like me and have 10 million Dewalt tools laying around, you likely have many batteries as well as chargers, so there's usually a freshly charged battery ready to go when you need it. The chain seems very sharp, and it's nice to have a spare chain in case you dull the one that's on the saw. Having a scabbard is super handy if you plan to carry this chainsaw in a bag or pack to protect other things in the pack from getting damaged or mauled from the sharp chain. The oiler would be super nice if it worked, but we'll talk about that in a second. 1 second later. Okay, here's a few things that I don't like about the Wisehigh 8-inch chainsaw. I don't know if I just got a bad oiler on this saw, but nonetheless, this one didn't work. I tried to figure out why, without any luck. The need for carrying tools with you isn't the end of the world, but there's multiple parts like washers, nuts, and the screw holding the cover on that can be lost in the grass, woods, or wherever you're using the saw. The technology is out there to improve this. I saw it on many other saws. See what I did there? My final thoughts on the Wisehigh 8-inch chainsaw? Even considering that the oiler wasn't working like it should, the performance of the saw was great and it made a ton of cuts with an impressive pile of sawdust on just 2 batteries. Durability seemed relatively good on this saw. At the time of this video, the Wisehigh 8-inch chainsaw sells on Amazon for $62.99 US. And also at the time of this video, they're offering a 30% off coupon, taking the price down to just over 44 US bucks. For that price point, it's not too bad of a deal. I'll put the link in the comments and in the description. I'd like to thank the folks at Wisehigh for sending me this saw for review. Please like, share, and subscribe if you enjoyed. Thanks for watching.